Today we bring you part 2 of our conversation with Tanzania's opposition leader Tundu Lissu. He spoke to VOA's Jackson Mvunganyi about why he thinks there was an attempt on his life and shares his thoughts about the East African country's political evolution 20 years after the death of its founding father, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere.
In the 1 year prior to the attack on me, I was arrested and spent time in police jails 8 times. I was charged in court for making critical statements about the government and the policies of President Magufuli. I was charged in court 6 times.
What happened to those charges? Were they dismissed?
They are still pending.
Right.
They're still pending. Now, on the day of the attack, the president was on air, was on national television 2 hours before I was shot. And President Magufuli told the nation, these are his exact words, that those who betray the country in its economic war do not deserve to survive. Two hours later, I lay bleeding from 16 gunshot wounds.
So you draw a linkage or connection between those two events?
It is not just those 2 events. It is the president's speech. It is the withdrawal of security from this government housing compound. It is the president preventing me from getting medical treatment paid for by parliament. Because, and this is what the speaker said, we cannot treat Mr. Lissu because the president has not authorized the release of the funds.
Okay, so let's talk about Tanzania 20 years after the death of your founding father, Mwalimu Dr. Julius Nyerere. If you were to give a report card to Tanzanian politics, body politic right now, on what trajectory, what path is your country on?
Where we are currently, where the country is at currently, is, I think, similar to where we were in the period 1964 to around 1984. That 20-year period is critical to understanding where we are now. In brief, during that period, we became one-party state. We did not have a Bill of Rights. We did not have an independent press. In fact, we didn't have any press. Our courts were not independent. We had a parliament which was described by the Constitution as a committee, a special committee of the sole ruling party. We had a period when constitutional scholars have described as an imperial presidency. We had Mwalimu Nyerere was an imperial president. He had almost unlimited powers. And he himself said on 2 occasions, in 1967 and 1978, on an interview with the BBC, Mwalimu said, I have powers under the Constitution to become a dictator. We had no rule of law. We had a country where critics of the government were being detained without trial because of the preventive detention law, which was introduced in 1962. Now, today's Tanzania has striking similarities.
That's over 30 years later.
To that 30 years later, or 35 years later to be exact.
Right.
There are striking similarities between the Tanzania ya Magufuli and the Tanzania ya Mwalimu Nyerere in that period of time, 1964 to 1984.
Tanzanian opposition politician Tundu Lissu talking to VOA's Jackson Mvunganyi at VOA's Washington studios.